right, so welcome back to another episode of the Barron Report. I'm your host, Paul Barron. And of course, on this podcast, we really dive into kind of the technical aspects of the restaurant and the food service space, but also a lot around technology. And with me today, I've got our guest, Chris Baggot, who is the founder and CEO of a company called ClusterTruck. Great to have you on the show, Chris.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, Chris, let's get into it. A little bit about ClusterTruck. Kind of tell us about the company and how you guys got started.
Sure. I mean, at a high level, we're a vertically integrated delivery-only restaurant. We like to think of ourselves as a software-first company, but basically we manage everything from the customer interaction. We use 1099 drivers, but they're drivers dedicated to our system. We build all the software within the kitchen as far as how food gets cooked and when, and coordinate that all together to deliver amazing food to our customers.
Very cool. What was it that kind of drove the, no pun intended, drove the idea for you to launch a software platform for online delivery?
Well, it was interesting. You know, I back in about late 2014 or so, I saw Grubhub go public. Happened to be watching CNBC and, you know, just kind of listened to him, listened to the CEO, and you know, in my head, I was like, this isn't going to work. And you know, and then started just sort of poking holes in it. And, you know, go to reviews and you find that the customers aren't happy. So you have this rapidly growing business or industry, I should say, where, you know, everybody who's playing in the space is getting 1-star reviews. Like nobody's happy. There's a lot about the gig economy and still is, right? You know, food delivery is the worst job in the gig economy. And it's like, okay, why is that? Well, because there's no dignity. They've got to go into a restaurant, get in their car, go find a customer. Well, how do we eliminate those problems? How do we take the worst job in the gig economy and make it the best job?
Interesting.
That's dependent on fees. How do we eliminate fees and still make a profit? And then finally, how do you actually build a profitable business model?
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to learn about some of these things because third party has been on the forefront, obviously, of consumer trends. It's how a lot of restaurant concepts are growing. But today we're going to be talking about your deal with Kroger, which is a grocery chain, and kind of their evolution of implementing a dark or virtual or ghost kitchen into it via the ClusterTruck. Can you share with us a little bit about the deal that you did with Kroger?
Sure. I mean, in the big picture, we built 4 kitchens. We have operations running in Columbus, Denver, Kansas City, and Indianapolis. And we've sort of proven our point. We delivered an average of 21 minutes. We're profitable in a 4-wall way. Our business model works. We're delivering in 21 minutes. We have really high recurring revenue. You go to Google and look at our reviews. They're 4.8 stars. So then it's how do we scale quickly? And, you know, as I mentioned to you off camera, you know, I've been very successful with startups and software startups. You know, it's not really about raising venture capital. It's for us, it's more about how do we quickly scale, you know, actual units.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you think about Kroger on their side, they've got 2,800 stores, 2,800 underutilized kitchens, and they want to feed the customer however the customer wants to eat, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So the customer and the trend is now going to, I want prepared food delivered to me. You know, a system like ClusterTruck coupled with 2,800 underutilized kitchens all over the country starts to become a really, really compelling case.
Right. All right. So, Chris, now that you've got some kitchens kind of launched with some of the locations, what are those setups like for you? Are those in existing commissaries, other restaurants? How do those function?
No, they're purpose-built. Our kitchens are very unique. We cook everything on a single line, if you will. So we make about 100 different items across all cuisines, from vegetarian to hamburgers to pizza to Chinese food. You know, you name it, you can find it on our menu. And we cook everything kind of organized around cooking style as far as cuisine style. We build our own software in the kitchen that kind of powers when to cook food relative to other food. So if I have an order that has pad thai and a cheeseburger, start the pad thai, don't start the cheeseburger. We time everything with the proximity of the driver. So it's all very tightly wound together through algorithms.
Interesting.
But
so this is really an integrated solution. both from a kitchen standpoint or an operations standpoint, being the food service operation, and obviously the logistics side of it with
Absolutely.
the software, which is really kind of think to your point is where the third party problems begin. Is obviously you have a third party solution, and tens of thousands of restaurants that are essentially the kitchens. Which is overkill in many cases, and a lot of times don't connect. So I definitely could see where this could make a difference. So you mentioned a little bit about in our pre-call about things like Travis Kalanick's Cloud Kitchens, Kitchen United, who are going out there and building these very elaborate kitchen systems and then dropping brands in them. What is different about ClusterTruck? How does that differentiate from those models?
Well, it's still not a vertical integration, right? If you think about FedEx, and I don't want to age you, but if you imagine a world before Federal Express, you mail a package or a letter and it's going to show up in 3 to 7 days, right? Why?
Yeah.
Because there are a million middlemen that are handling all of that, right? There was no
Right.
system. And Fred Smith came in and said, okay, I'm going to build a vertically integrated system where I own the planes, the trucks, the software, the warehouses. Not only am I going to make it sooner than 3 to 7 days, I'm going to make it 10:30 the next morning. And that's
Sure.
impossible to do unless you control every aspect of it. So when you talk
Right.
about cloud kitchens, as Travis or Kitchens United is describing them, they're only trying to solve one small problem, and that is overhead. They're living in a world where they accept that third-party delivery is going to be here. And the restaurant can't afford the friction or the cost to have that coming out of their existing restaurant and still pay a 25% commission. Therefore, let's lower their overhead by putting them into these dark kitchens.
Yeah.
And frankly, I just don't think it's going to work. It's just
Yeah.
incremental improvement. It's not really disrupting or targeting exactly what's needed to effectively do this.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of hitting on the other flip side of the problem, which is the real estate issue. Kind of that brand connection there
I
too.
mean, you're just adding another third party, right? You talk about
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I forget what they're called now, the Eatsa company that, they're making shelves. So now we got shelves. I've got Olo integrating 4 different tablets on my counter. I've got a bunch of drivers I don't know. I've got, just too many cooks in the kitchen, to use a pun, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and the industry has never really had success with this, with exception of the pizza chains who were vertically integrated, and they were able to essentially kind of build a whole business model around this. So it's not like it hasn't been done before, but in many cases it hasn't been done at scale with pretty much any kind of cuisine, which is kind of the scenario that this kind of brings to point. Why grocery though?
What's that?
Why grocery though?
Well, it's just more about the kitchens, right? Grocery, prepared food. I mean, Kroger, all the grocery chains have massive prepared food businesses, right? I was in a King Stupor store in Denver, which is a Kroger brand, the other day, and they've got a whole, it looks like a Qdoba or a Chipotle in there. You stand there, you pick your bean, you pick your meat, you pick your tortilla, add cheese, and right behind me, they had an entire sushi bar with like a rotating, belt going around, and people sat at a counter eating sushi. I mean, the source of my food is less important to me anymore than it is it good? Is it high quality? And especially in the delivery, is the delivery experience good?
Yeah. So could the ClusterTruck model work with a food service organization that is a restaurant concept, even an independent? Would it work with that model, or as just a software solution only, or how would you see that working out?
I mean, our system works well at volume. We do, I'm sorry, I'm looking up at our board right now, but, we'll do close to 800 orders today in Indianapolis, for example. We do 450 lunch orders in an hour and a half to 2 hours. It really, it works very well on volume because a big part of this is having enough work to keep the drivers engaged and making money. We get our drivers anywhere from 4 to 6 jobs an hour. You compare that to Matt Maloney's investor note back in October, where he talked about it takes 45 minutes to do a single job for a driver. Because of that, volume is one reason why I'm not sure this would work if it was a standalone. Most individual restaurants that are working with third parties, frankly, they're not doing 10, 15 orders a day. Most of them are doing much less than that.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. So grocery is a natural fit. Your volume capacity definitely could be there with being able to handle the kind of scale that you're talking, or your own integrated kitchens themselves. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing aspect, because obviously you're building somewhat of a virtual brand with what you're doing with ClusterTruck. How does that work? Because how does a consumer learn about the product? How do they get engaged with it? Is it an app? Kind of walk us through the customer life cycle or
Yeah,
process.
and that's a spectacular question. It's been one of our biggest learnings, right? We have to come in where there's no front of house with a brand new brand that you can't drive by and say, oh, let's try this out tonight. Or so we enter a market typically with a lot of PR, get on local television and things like that. We do very traditional TV commercials, billboards, and a lot of digital, and a lot of word of mouth. Our experience is so good, and that the customer, really wants to share it. We have a very group ordering functionality where you can invite others. We've got a nice point system, so 40% of our new customers come in from group orders. Almost 90% of our customers are coming from word of mouth. When you get hot food delivered by friendly people in 16 minutes, as opposed to the third-party model where you get cold food delivered in an hour by a really surly person, you're not going back. And that's the other reason why our system works, and why we have to make all the food. You mentioned the pizza folks a few minutes ago, and that's one I scratch my head on. You've heard the buggy whip analogy, right? What business are you in? And you said it. They're actually in the prepared food logistics and food delivery business.
Yeah.
The product happened to be pizza. But if you talk to them, they think they're in the pizza business. The idea that Grubhub or DoorDash exists should be kind of an embarrassment to them, right? They invented this space. They've been delivering food to homes and offices for decades. And the fact that they missed this opportunity, and it's not over yet, so they'll probably catch on, but it's still, it's very telling.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that has always been surprising to me, is that the technology, obviously it's out there. There is a capability of it being built. Logistics is a thing that can be attacked and definitely overcome. And with food service, especially requiring such a fast turnaround time and expectation, I think those are the challenges that the industry is definitely going to face from going forward. Here's the thing, and I think this is where Uber and Grubhub and Postmates and all those third-party companies have kind of got the edge, and it kind of put them in play, was they were creating essentially a marketing engine because they had access to all these great users. So a restaurant, may look at this as more of a marketing expense than an actual delivery expense. So if you're a virtual brand, when you guys are living this right now, how do you feel like this is something that can scale with development of virtual brands? Because this is something I talk about with executives a lot, and it just hasn't been done yet. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think brands are becoming less and less important. New brands are spinning up on Instagram every single day that I never heard of. 5 years ago, when you were talking about the restaurant industry, you were talking about how terrible it was, and the life expectancy of a new restaurant is less than 5 years, and and now all of a sudden, like, the brand matters. What matters to the consumer is the experience and the quality. Is the food good? Is it consistent? Can I count on it? Does it solve the job I'm hiring it to do? And we're not in the entertainment business, right? Now, a lot of restaurants are. Friday nights, I want to go to a big place and see lots of people and hear music or have noise, or a quiet dinner with my wife and white tablecloth. And, but if I'm sitting at home watching Netflix, or I'm going to eat with 10 of my colleagues for an office meeting, that's the problem we solve.
So it's
absolutely. Very restaurant, I think one of the big problems in the space has been, just this incrementality of it all. I think about, I came from the catalog business, decades ago, and Sears was one of my clients, and Sears, they invented the everything store, right? But when the internet came along, they thought about, how can the internet help my existing business? They didn't think of it fundamentally as something new that they should target. There's no reason Amazon should exist, but these big companies, they couldn't get out of their own way, and I see that with the restaurant industry today.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the painstaking things that I see in talking with CEOs and just restaurant brand leaders around the world. Of that, this opportunity is definitely in front of us right now with the fact that consumer demand is at such a fever pitch, obviously because of the literal billions of dollars that have been poured into marketing by companies like Uber and Grubhub and the likes. So I think the key will be companies like yourself that do solve the problem of delivery and speed to customer. The logistics side of this, is this something that you guys are looking to potentially license down the road to be able to scale beyond maybe what your capacity is now?
Well, to make our system work, you've got to use the whole system. So you can't cherry pick and say, we want to use your driver system.
Right.
You know, the key and, the very first thing we wrote down was, don't cook the food until you know where the driver is. So if I have food and the order comes in and I know that the food is going to take 4 minutes to make or 6 minutes to make, and the driver's 20 minutes away, let's use the proximity to say fire the kitchen when the driver's 4 minutes away. So we want the food to be cooked. We fired the food based on how long each item takes. So, basically everything that's in a kitchen expo's head, we've tried to put into software.
Right.
So pad thai, 6 minutes, cheeseburgers, 3 minutes, start the pad thai, 3 minutes later, start the cheeseburger, 2.5 minutes later, pull the fries, assemble the order, the driver pulls up, we hand him the food. Our promise to the customer is that your food will never be older than 6 minutes.
Wow.
So it may be a 30-minute delivery. It may sometimes on rare occasions be a 45-minute delivery, but your food is not going to be 45 minutes old. If I have a 45-minute delivery from a third-party delivery company, who knows how old that food is.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so as far as your driver technology, the way that a driver would work with you, do they have an app on their phone? I'm assuming that's a geolocation type system, much like Uber?
Exactly, yes. So they have an app. When they get an order, we hand them a bag of food. There's a number on that ticket. They enter that ticket. That tells them where they're going, tells the customer to track them. The customer tracks them like they would track an Uber. You're following it, pulls up. We ask the customer to meet the driver, so the driver doesn't have to get out of their vehicle.
Right.
We offer free delivery. One of the things we knew in the beginning also was that our competitors, had a lot more money than we did. And,
sure.
That they needed those fees, and they would use their venture money to subsidize free delivery. And I got a Wendy's cheeseburger delivered to me a couple of days ago for free, $4.50. I'm like, okay, It's great to me. Nobody made any money on that transaction.
Yeah, terrible loss leader for sure.
So
So, okay,
so we support free delivery. We can make money at free delivery.
right. Yeah. So with this model, because it sounds almost too good to be true, if you think about what you guys are doing, you've somewhat solved all the big challenges, which is obviously reducing costs to the consumer, increasing speed, fresher food, vertically integrated, so food safety is going to not necessarily be a concern. Obviously, you're using your own driver network. How can you guys scale? Because obviously, I would say that this should be in every city out there. What's your plans for growth in the next few years?
Well, and that gets to the root of the Kroger partnership, right? What I'm sitting here saying is, okay, I could go out and raise billions of dollars and build kitchens one at a time, or I could partner with somebody who has 2,800 pretty underutilized kitchens that we could move into in a matter of a couple of years. And
Interesting.
that's the path we're taking.
Yeah. Obviously, being able to build a matrix like what a grocery chain would offer if you were to, do a deal with Publix or, some of these specialty products out here. I mean, with that density, that really does kind of create a very unique point of differentiation, especially in a major market, which would be maybe a market like here in Miami, which is a car market. You don't see that urbanization like you would in New York or Chicago. Dallas is kind of the same way, Los Angeles. Do you see those kinds of cities working better for you versus an urbanized type model?
Well, I mean, we're in Indianapolis, right? Columbus, Ohio, Kansas City.
Sure.
So, we've been targeting kind of mid-sized cities to start just to work out our kinks, if you will, and get the model working. But, it all depends on what your goals are, right? If you want to build a $10 million kitchen, what kind of population do I need within 6 minutes to do that? If I want to build a $2 million kitchen, that's a different model. We just opened our first suburban kitchen in Carmel, Indiana, which is a suburb here of Indianapolis. And I was kind of nervous about, just it's not as dense as a city. But the reality is that people have to drive wherever they go. And so what we're seeing is higher average order sizes and a lot more repeat orders, a lot more frequency. Whereas, our average orders every 21 days, in the suburbs, they're starting to order a lot more frequently. And because we have a broad menu, I can eat Chinese on Monday and vegetarian food on Friday and a cheeseburger on Thursday and a pizza. What's also nice about our model, especially in offices and even at home, really, is everyone can get what they want. I got a review last night I was like, wow, I just can't believe that my wife can have pad thai and I can have a cheeseburger on the same order, right? And it seems so simple, but that's pretty much impossible with everybody else.
Yeah. Now within the ClusterTruck, because obviously I haven't had a chance to see it in action and use the app, but
come up and visit.
we've got to do that. But from a customer's perspective, they've got the app, they're ordering. Do they see different brands for the different cuisines types, or are you covering all brands under one umbrella? How does that work for differentiating the menu styles?
Comes under the ClusterTruck brand, and then we have different categories. Breakfast.
Okay.
We call something grub fare, which is sort of like pizza and pulled pork or not pizza. I'm sorry, but cheeseburgers and pulled pork sandwiches and things like that. Pizza and wings. So they can kind of easily sort through. You can search, just type in what you want, those items will pop up. So we try to make the navigation pretty simple. Yeah. And the customer, because the customer is so loyal, they learn our system very quickly.
Right. Last question here, and that is kind of from a consumer standpoint. Dark kitchens, virtual kitchens, consumers are eventually going to start to figure out how these things work. Obviously, today it's kind of what's happening behind the curtain. What do you think is the consumer adoption rate? Much like third party, in the beginning it was very slow to uptake, but then it just kind of, the pedal hit the floor. What are your thoughts on growth for virtual dark kitchens, ghost kitchens in the future?
Well, again, I can't really speak to the Kitchens United cloud kitchen model because that's really tied to the third party delivery model, right? Like they can't exist separately. They're trying to solve each other's problems.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, we're in the fastest growing industry in the world right now, right? Food is the biggest industry. Prepared food delivery is the fastest growing segment. And
for
frankly,
sure,
I sound like a jerk when I say this, but I don't think anyone's doing it like we are. I don't think anyone's doing it right. I have not seen any profitable business model without fees anywhere on the planet. So our goal is to grow as quickly as possible by taking big bites like this Kroger partnership, to scale globally as quickly as possible.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris, so thanks so much again for stopping in. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Nice meeting you.
All right, so for you guys listening in, or maybe you're watching over on YouTube, make sure and subscribe to our podcast and also over on the YouTube channel. We love to get your feedback. And also, if you have a great show idea, or maybe you have a topic that you'd like us to cover right here on the Barron Report, you can send it to us just to producer@Foodable.tv, or hit me up over on Twitter @Paul Barron. And I'd love to kind of chat with you about your ideas. We do talk about technology a lot and a lot of consumer trends that are happening, but we also dive into much bigger topics. So don't think that your topic can't be covered here on the Barron Report. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening in. We'll catch you on the next show right here. Bye.